Yeah. So, but let me introduce you properly. So, Karthik is an amazing guy. He holds a really big position as a chief content officer, and I don't know, business head, and so many things, man, on your LinkedIn profile at Wavemaker. It's like boggles the mind that you also do a podcast, also teach at Mica, and you're a bit of an artist too, which not too many people actually are aware of. So, man of many talents. I actually think of you as a renaissance man, to be honest. New renaissance. They doing.
I think you raised the bar of lying to a point where I can't catch up anymore.
But well, there you go. So, but I genuinely, so when I met you for the first time, I'd met you as associate dean, and you would come to teach, I think. And then I thought that, hey, this guy is really interesting because he's done so many different things. So I wanted to invite you again, and then invited you to judge the DCM project, which was people
Yes.
actually putting their ideas into ventures and stuff like that. So that was a very interesting sort of experience with you. Then you've been teaching at Mica as well for some time.
Yes, teaching as Micah, and that entire journey, Sid, without any doubt, has been thanks to you. Every conversation we've had about it, I've been able to shape something that I delivered. In fact, after you were a guest on my podcast, and we spoke about teaching
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Right.
I think the year I taught after that, I used a lot of those techniques that. So whenever I go in front of a classroom, I am asking myself, like, what would Sid do in this
Oh,
situation?
Jesus, stop
I
it
went
now.
for a no true story. But that session you very boringly described, which you put together in this thing, was actually a brilliant, one of the most exciting days I've had the last 2 years. It's you're being very modest about it, but you actually managed to create a Shark Tank in Ahmedabad within the Mica campus.
It was the
Uh,
Dokura tank.
People with great ideas, extraordinary minds coming, and I had the privilege of being along with you and a few others on the
But
panel.
it's fun, man. I
Yeah, it
think
was great.
also it's the panel, right? It's the
Yeah,
panel, and it's a lot of fun.
it was a brilliant panel. I think we gelled in a very different way.
Absolutely, absolutely. For those people who have no idea what we're talking about, Mica does a 6 month thing from idea through to prototype and business model, and is finally judged by a bunch of people coming in from industry and who are also kind of angel investors, or people who have been entrepreneurs. And this is the panel that Karthik is talking about. We are all part of a panel. We judge people, we give them feedback on their pitches and stuff like that. But coming back to Karthik, I mean, Karthik, I call you a Renaissance man, and that's for no slight purpose. I mean, you have done your podcast so well. So when I actually, let me give you the experience that I had when I was sitting on the other side, right, of this podcast. I suddenly realized, damn, this guy's got a good voice here. And it was like lulling me and putting me to sort of a self hypnosis sort of thing. I'm like, damn, this guy's good. And when I was speaking, I was kind of admiring your skills as a podcast host. You've done about 60 odd of them, right now, or maybe 70.
Uh, 70 this Monday.
Shit, man, that is awesome. Well done, you. And you've met up with so many different industry
Yeah.
people, and you kind of, it works well with you, right? Because you meet a lot of people in the industry,
Yes.
and you're kind of calling them for the podcast. You must have learned a lot, no, Karthik,
Oh,
from meeting
extraordinary.
all these. Yeah.
In fact, it's the genesis of this is when I realized that I'm in a very privileged, lucky position.
Mm,
Also because of what Group M is and
mm,
all of that, right? Which is
mm.
why I'm able to meet such extraordinary minds, including yourself. All the 71 episodes that we've done so far,
Yeah.
each of them has been someone I've been very, very lucky to meet, right? And in fact, the idea of having a show
Mm,
actually started with that, saying, since I have access to such extraordinary minds, I should
mm.
somewhere, put it, preserve it, and curate it into content that people can listen to for many years to come. Right? So that was the genesis of it, and
That's
it's been a
awesome.
wonderful.
That's awesome, because that kind of brings me to the topic that I wanted to actually specifically discuss with you. So I wanted to talk about, you've been it's a fairly, you're at an important position in industry, and you are somebody who's doing his own podcast. So you're not a stranger to content development, and you teach, right? So this trifecta of being an industry person, of being a teacher, and of being, somebody who's a content producer,
Right.
um, it must have created a lot of differences for you, and I wanted to touch base with you and figure out, how do we kind of build learning together going forward? Because this is the kind of reset button, right? COVID is the reset button, and it's something which is changing, shaking up a lot of things, including education. And I just wanted to explore that with you, based as on your experiences as a visiting faculty, how you see things going ahead, and stuff like that. So that was one. But before that, I did hear that unfortunately you were struck by the COVID virus, and then you've gotten out of it. So I wanted to first probably ask you, given the theme of this topic, what did you learn out of that, man?
I think this entire lockdown, had taught us. I think what is important to you really, and it gives you that filter. I think when I spent about 25 odd days sitting inside a room because I tested positive, and it took me that long to sort of come out of it. Um, I think that just reinforced that sense of priority in your mind. I think that was certainly one. And the other thing I would say is, see, because it's such an emotionally draining experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's me and my wife and my 3-year-old daughter, and the fact that you're not able to, sort of physically interact with them, go near them, etc. That and the fear that you generally have, right? Once you tested positive,
Yeah.
all of this sort of gets you into a very um, unstable emotional path, right? Which is very easy to sort of spiral unless you have like a very rigorous schedule, right? So in those 25 days, I probably did more than I did in the 3-4 months before that, because I was putting myself through a punishing schedule. Um, I didn't necessarily take time off work. There was about a 4-5 day period where I couldn't do anything, because I think COVID also drains you out of energy.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So besides that, I was reading almost 10 to 12 books parallelly.
Whoa.
I was thankfully I quarantined myself in the room where we also have our bookshelf. So I think that was a master stroke, as we call it.
Yeah.
And because it was also because the only it's a bedroom where we had a bigger window.
Yeah.
So that and work, and I thought about it and then decided against stopping recording of the podcast. So I kind of went through that, and I entered the room. So I was practicing almost every day.
Oh.
So that really helped. So that's a schedule I actually unfortunately I'm not able to keep up now. Now that I'm actually out of the room, right?
Okay.
I haven't played the violin in 10 days. Right?
Oh, okay. Do you have it now?
This is a different room, but now I'm going back to my older ways of
Okay.
so that intensity of what you're going through physically also puts your mind at
Yeah.
probably at a different place, I think.
Okay. So now just you say that mindset becomes really important. And I just wanted to probably explore that a little, because what I've noticed, right, as a teacher who's been an adjunct first, visiting first, then adjunct, then associate dean, and then, heading an area, and then going back to adjunct and maybe teaching, traveling professor, etc. I've seen the damn thing in various ways, right? And one of the things that I've understood is that unless and until you are able to actually connect to somebody who wants to learn, okay, it just doesn't work. I'm wondering how it works for somebody like you coming and teaching people. You're like this fly by night operator who can come and teach and get out like the assassin. Do you kind of experience this too? What are some of the things that you've noticed
See,
when you?
so it actually is those 4-5 days that I spent in the campus. I think
Yeah.
I've over the period of the last 6 years come to treasure them as probably the most important period of the year for me. Because,
Okay.
and like I said, I wasn't joking when I was saying the kind of interactions you and I have had and the kind of learnings I've had from you. have made me sort of look at it in a very, very different lens. And I'm a better teacher, I guess, because of it. So what has happened is actually, I realized in the first year, I actually thought this is a place for me to share my learnings.
Mm.
I thought I'm giving something back to the society.
Mm.
Very clearly, I think 4 or 5 hours in the classroom, I realized that is not this. This is a different thing. And you could meet 10,000 of the biggest
Yeah.
and the most senior clients in the world,
Yeah.
but you're never really as naked in front of an audience as you are in a classroom, right?
Yeah.
Intellectually speaking.
Yeah.
Everything is being questioned, and everything is being questioned from a very raw place, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be an absolute master of
Mm.
what you're uh, what you're
Subject.
conveying of your
Yeah.
subject.
Mhm.
If you believe in having if you want to make a dent in the learning itself. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then I realized very quickly that it's not me sharing. These are actually the 4 or 5 days where I'm going to learn
Oh
more
wow,
than I ever did. Right.
that is awesome. Yeah.
And so the way I prepared for it sort of changed, and the way I was delivering it also changed, and all of that. And somewhere I feel the three things that I've been doing the most in the last year and a half, which is the podcast,
Yeah.
what I do at work, and the teaching. They all sort of feed into one another.
Correct. That's right. I just wanted to ask you, now that you mentioned these three, do you really think that education is a kind of content? I know it's heretical to say this. Most educators will try to slap me around, but I wanted to ask you because you teach, okay, but you're essentially somebody who's in charge of content, your own
Yeah.
content and also content for a lot of other people. So, what do you think?
I think absolutely. And I don't know if you remember in one of the earlier conversations, you had mentioned to me that uh, you know, it's teaching is like a performance art.
Mm-hmm.
Until you mentioned it, I never thought of it that way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
So that is something that then I'm looking at in a different lens from then on, right? And I feel education is I agree with what you said in terms of it being content.
Mhm.
I think uh, different people prepare for it differently. I work a lot on the story of what
Mm.
I'm trying to say, not so much about the slide, but
Mm.
I
Mm.
want them to remember moments and remember anecdotes and the stories behind what I'm saying, because the rest is details. Right? Once you remember these, then you will sort of learn the details fairly quickly. So I began to sort of think of it like that. I began to sort of think of it like
So let,
these.
let, me, let me push you a little on this. Like the funny thing is that, from a student perspective, right? Students get a lot of teachers who are teaching theoretical constructs, concepts, and frameworks, which are good, but they're dry. Okay. And then you industry walas come in and you, kind of razzle dazzle the audience and go off. And kind of in a student's mind, it is always a question of, okay, man, this guy is doing it. He's in the industry and he's teaching me so much of practical gyan. That's the typical stuff that
Yeah,
they say. Now, what's your take on it? Because you've gone through it and you've also tried to create some kind of curriculum for your own class, right? So you've kind of
correct.
figured out, yeah.
Yes, yes,
So,
yeah.
what do you think of how do theories and frameworks fit in as compared to practicalities and anecdotes and stories? So I just
You
want
know,
to.
I'm just going to hold off on that answer and actually ask you something. Okay?
Okay, all right.
Maybe I've
Okay.
not had the vantage point to do this, but when you observe, Sid, of all the people who come and teach across different
Yeah.
institutions that you're a part of, what is the difference that you see between an academic coming and talking about a subject and someone from the industry coming and talking about a subject?
So, okay, I'll give you my 2 bits, but you're not getting away so easily. But I'm going to give you my 2 bits. So, I first of all, it's the way in which a student looks at you that makes a difference. One is Ghar Ki Murgi Dal Barabar, and the second is, Gayak Butter Chicken. And I'm being facetious, but it's true. There is a big difference that's going to come just because you're in the mindset that you want to perceive something differently.
Yeah.
So that's one. The second thing I've noticed is that a lot of visiting faculties come, they think teaching is going to be a breeze. Okay, because they actually think that it's going to be for an hour. But once they realize, oh my God, it's going to be for more than an hour, and oh God, I'm going to have to do this to 3 classes at the same time. It just becomes a bit, they start getting, they get unraveled.
Right.
What I feel also is that lectures somehow are getting a little old age man. Just a person coming in, it's a little like theater. I'm sorry. I know you're probably a big fan of theater, but theater is, problematic today. It's old technology, right? And I'm not saying the new technology is good, but we are looking at a situation wherein somebody's coming into a theater sort of situation. You're doing stuff and you're getting out. It's damn difficult to hold attention just through theories and frameworks. It's always easier to listen to stories and concepts. Not that one is good or one is bad or anything, but that's how I see it being played. What do you think?
See, I think there are 2-3 things for me, and I'm going to only talk about this from a very personal perspective. That way I can be honest to it. See, the sheer material of what you want to convey, right? And as you know, I teach content marketing. Right? Initially, in the first 2 years, I was sort of relying on the narrative I was using in the industry, right? Like, for example, a great framework that I had presented to a client or to my own team, something that we would co-create. Right? So that is something that I would take to the students. Right? And then over a period of time, I realized that's not really the right way to do that.
Okay, interesting.
Because I think these are two different audiences. I think the student who eventually will become a practitioner of this needs to understand this in a very different way compared to a client who's going to be an investor in this. Right?
Okay.
So then I quickly sort of changed that into something that I was creating then for the students. I think that is one. Second thing, I completely agree with you on the theater part of it. It is an age-old system, and while it can be effective, I don't know if it is efficient. Right? You sort of belabor on a point so much, right? You can probably. I'm sure there are many different ways of making that point rather than a half an hour lecture.
Yeah.
And as campus to the really large auditorium.
That's
and it literally becomes a theater, right? You are trying to grab the attention of the person sitting in the corner of such a large auditorium.
It's tough.
It's tough. And the only way then I realized is to literally and figuratively get out of the stage and walk up the steps, up and down, etc. So the corridor then became pretty much where I was standing most of the time. So that is the second thing. And the third thing is also, this is something nobody really tells you, is how physically demanding teaching can be.
Damn physically demanding, man.
So I thought, I'll teach for 4 hours and then I'll go back and finish off some work. When I go back to the room. No, you sleep. You have to sleep for 10, 12 hours if you want to have a good class.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
The next day morning, it's so these are some of the learnings.
Fantastic. I just wanted to share something completely different with you. There's a student of mine, shout out to Deepak Kumar, who during the lockdown period just got together a bunch of his peers and people who are his juniors and all, and just started sharing stuff that he had learned about a topic. Now, at that point in time, I think doing something around relationship marketing or something. So he invited me, saying, "Hey, why don't you come along and make a couple of statements, and it'll be good to see a professor also." I said, "Cool, man." So I joined the thing, and it was a fun experience. And then I realized a couple of things, Karthik. One is that learning doesn't stop. Okay, and people are really hungry for learning. People were looking at different ways of learning, and what I saw the future in a bit, because I actually saw people learning on Zoom or learning on whatever as compared to learning in a classroom. Now, I'm not saying that the lecture hall or the classroom is done and dusted, but what about people who have finished their formal education and who
Right.
are now into their work stream? Is there a way in which they can actually get in touch with industry guys who can share some knowledge? And so I just thought that that was a very interesting development, and it was done by students. So
Right.
that was a pretty awesome thing to experience, and I just kind of had a glimpse of the future of learning. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think recently someone was asking me about what are the some of the skill sets that you need,
Ah,
and I'd love to pick your brains on this, right? To
okay.
be a marketer in the future.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, and I think I was until that the person asked me that question, I wasn't really thinking about it from that perspective. Then I realized that uh, these needs of today are very different from what it was
Mm.
even 5-6 years back.
Yeah.
I think the if you take for example social media itself as a
Yeah.
because everybody easily understands this, so I'm saying this, right?
Yeah.
You take social media marketing as one of the subsets of
Yeah.
marketing. How it was in 2012 is very different. You were selling social media itself, and how it was in 2015 was very different because you had to know um, about the different ad properties in these places,
Mm.
and how paid media work, and
Yeah.
how content worked. Measurement was a big thing, etc.
Correct.
And now, if you see, uh, uh, it is very different, right? Things have suddenly you have a lot more platforms than you
Yeah.
had to worry about for a brand earlier,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so I think today it is not so much about. In fact, that's my question to you. Do you feel that today it is so much about the detail of how something works right now?
Mm-hmm.
Going into the depth of it, um, or do you think today it is more of a understanding what is the role of each of the moving wheels, right? Like for example, conceptually, it's very important to understand what is performance marketing, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's a very important question, because the moment somebody gives a lot of gyan or stories, then people
Yeah.
say, "नहीं हमें कुछ practical detail नहीं मिला," and
Ah,
somebody who goes into the nitty gritty. And I've seen student feedback forms for various people in the area
right.
that I lead. So either they say that we didn't get anything conceptual or we didn't get anything practical. So that's I think it's a bit unfair to the teacher, but that's how it is. My feeling is the classroom itself is a limiting factor, because one person comes and teaches and then gets out. And one of the things that I did explore was to actually call an expert, a UI expert. I was teaching, I believe I was teaching project management, and I was looking at a UI case for project management.
Hmm.
And I called in a UI expert and I started asking that guy questions. Now that actually started, a different kind of understanding for the class. So it was not me giving gyan about project management or how to deal with a UI case, but actually saying, okay, so what did you do and what were the limitations and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that just added a different dimension, and a lot of teachers who are doing that, you know, are probably benefiting from something like this. Now, if you can take this online, nothing like it, man. Maybe you and I
Yeah.
should do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the what I love about what you just said. I think there are different ways to examine
Yeah.
a concept, right? And I think just to answer the question I had asked you myself, I feel today it is very important to not go so much into the depth of it, because by the time you go into the detail of what is performance marketing, etc.,
Hmm.
you sort of it changes, right?
Hmm.
The entire rules of the game change before you become
Yeah.
an expert in it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is more of a skill to acquire for a very short term. And in the
Hmm.
long term, I think it is important to understand the pieces. But I think it will be wonderful if you can actually take it to online, look at different concepts like these,
So
and then
let
sort
me
of
let,
debate it. Yeah.
Okay, so good. So now we are reaching somewhere. I am just keeping an eye out on the time. We are very close to you. Our 40-minute time limit for our lecture, sir. So what I wanted to figure out from you is we've spoken a lot about this, and we're looking at developing content online, looking at all industry guys, looking at theoretical professor types. If you had to create some kind of solution around it, okay, and say, let's say you and I are doing it, okay, how do you do something like this?
I think I think if the philosophy is that continuous learning, right? Not look at learning as a starting point and ending point, and
Yeah.
then okay. And then the idea of learning something conceptually and understanding it experientially, and then
Okay.
debating the concept itself into whether this was the best way to do it or not. I think that sort of a cycle is what will probably enhance our learning.
Would you look at a specific target audience, like people who got 2 years of experience, 3 years? ऐसा कुछ, yeah. What how would you look at your audience?
I think there has to be a certain specificity, right? While as content, it might work for really everybody. But I think from a takeaway perspective, it has to be designed for
For a particular audience.
for a particular audience, right? So that they can benefit more out of it. And the other thing I will also say is a lot of the content that you see in webinars and even
Yeah.
in events, etc., they're all about people who are CMOs and CEOs and
Yeah.
people who
And
spent a lot of time in it. Right?
it's also fucking boring, man. I don't know whether you. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
boring.
in fact, and the thing is, their points of view are going to be so 50,000 feet,
Yeah.
feet high that it might not really make sense in terms of a day-to-day application of that knowledge. So I would love to do a show, for example, since you asked, where the guests in the show are actually practitioners, right?
Nice.
Who do these at a reasonably tactical level every day, and the kind of learnings that they have. Right? I think that's something there which is untapped until now. I feel. How do you feel about it?
I think we should do it, man. This is all I can say. Maybe we should talk offline on this, but yeah, we should do it. But one of the things that okay, last question to you before we kind of wind this up is suppose okay, two questions. One is suppose you were to sit in one of your classes again, okay? Which class would you sit and why?
Of my own classes?
No.
Oh,
So
what I had. Okay. Yeah.
Or anybody's anything.
Yeah.
And it can be about anything.
I'll tell you the class I will not sit through is some of the classical marketing lectures. Right?
Kotler Baba.
Kotler Baba. I think that had a very minute impact in real life. Right? I think that is the one. What I would actually sit through, I think some of the organizational behavior classes. Right? That I would probably sit through again because I didn't really think of it as an impactful piece back then. But
shit, man. You got shit for brains.
and today, when I try and reinvent all those wheels from a leadership perspective, I really wish that is something that I could have gone deeper than I did earlier. How about you?
I used to love a guy called Jagdeep Chokkar who used to teach us in MICA. I was in the first batch of MICA, and he used to teach organizational behavior. And I would give any. He's now currently in some Haryana politics or administration or something.
Wow.
Incredible guy. He used to criticize each and every person in the room. So I think I've picked up some of the style subconsciously because if you ask my students, I'm continuously dissing them. But this guy was amazing. He was so sharp, so good, and just made me realize how much I understood about OB as you know. just by listening to his lectures. Okay, last question for you. Okay, not letting you off the hook. So suppose you've taught for a bit, right? And you've obviously given stories, anecdotes, practice, and all of that. Now, if you're like, damn, I wish I had an academic and somebody would give me some funda, some theory around it. Okay, or I wish I knew this theory then, and I would have been able to explain this way better. Has this ever happened to you?
Absolutely, all the time.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, especially one of the things that back when I was doing my management course, there was nobody really looked at it from an entrepreneur's perspective. Right? Right? I think everything was looked at from a large organization, marketing engine, brand building, etc. No one really looked at it from some of those values. I wish now today when I speak, even for a marketer, I bring in a lot of those values in it. So that I wish someone had narrated differently to me.
That's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. Wow. Karthik, thank you so much. Yeah. It has been such a pleasure. You know what it's reminding me of? It's reminding me of a conversation that I'm having with you at Chota. This entire thing is like I've got a cup of chai and we're chilling out. Or any other college canteen, man, for anybody who's listening. Yeah, absolutely. This fact that